My phone buzzed at 9:12 a.m. on a bright summer morning, the kind of light that makes you believe nothing bad can happen. Ethan, don't come. 2 words. No mom, no explanation, no softness, just a slammed door in text form. I stood in my bedroom with one earring in, the other still pinched between my fingers, and I realized I hadn't taken a full breath since the screen lit up. My navy dress, altered to fall perfectly at the waist because I wanted to look right when I hugged my only son, hung on the closet door like a guest who'd arrived early and was now being ignored. For a full minute, I did nothing. Then I set the phone down on my dresser as carefully as if it were a glass of water balanced on the edge of a table. That's when my laptop caught my eye. The wedding day schedule Paige had emailed the night before was still open. Subject line? Timeline. Super helpful. Her heart emoji always felt like a thumb pressing down. I hadn't wanted to read it again, but my eyes found the same line they'd found the first time. The one that had snagged and held tight, like a burr in fabric. Support staff, Elaine Harper, groom's mother. Deliver programs to ushers. Support staff, not mother of the groom, not family, not even guest. Just support. If you've ever been treated like furniture in your own family, type respect in the comments. I told myself it was a template mistake. Paige loved spreadsheets and boxes and labels, little tidy categories that put people where she thought they belonged. I'd replied politely anyway. Got it. See you tomorrow. Because I'm the kind of woman who swallows small humiliations so the room can stay peaceful. But Ethan's text made that line feel like a confession. I picked up my phone again and opened our thread. I stared at his last message like it might change shape if I looked hard enough. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. 100 responses rose up in my throat. Why? What happened? I'm your mother. But they all tasted like begging, so I typed only this. Okay, I love you, and I hit send. No punctuation drama, no guilt, no pleading, just one quiet sentence that kept me from breaking in half. Outside, a car horn sounded. Somewhere, someone was rushing toward a celebration. I sat on the edge of my bed and tried to understand how I'd become a problem to be managed on my son's wedding day, because it hadn't started that morning. It started months ago. Softly, politely, in the shape of help. Elaine, you've been through so much since Robert passed, Paige would say, her voice like warm tea. We just want to make things easier for you. Easier meant Ethan handling my bills online. Easier meant Paige reminding me in front of other people how I'd once forgotten my keys. Easier meant them asking casually over dinner if I'd thought about a smaller place. Then one afternoon after church, Paige's hand rested on my forearm like a gentle weight, and she said, almost kindly, if we ever worry about safety, there are facilities that are really nice now. It's not like the old days. Facilities. She said it like she was recommending a spa. That was the first time I felt it, my life being rewritten without my permission. I looked at the framed photo on my dresser. Robert in his work uniform. Ethan at 16. Me in the middle, smiling so hard my cheeks hurt. A normal family. A simple family. The kind that didn't do this. I stood up and walked to the window. Sunlight spilled across my driveway. My hands were steady, but my chest felt hollow. Then my phone rang. Not a text. A call. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Wedding vendors called all day. Florists, caterers, the bakery. Paige had been putting my number down for things I didn't agree to for weeks. But something in me, some old instinct that had carried me through layoffs, hospital nights, and Robert's funeral, made me answer. Hello? A woman's voice, professional and cautious. May I speak with Elaine Harper? This is she. Mrs. Harper, my name is Renee Hargrove. I'm a notary public. I have a mobile appointment scheduled with you today at 3 o'clock to notarize documents regarding a property transfer. I'm calling to confirm your availability and verify that you requested this service. Property transfer. The words dropped into my stomach like a stone. I did not schedule anything, I said slowly. There was a pause. Paper rustled on her end, the sound of someone checking details twice. The request came in under your name. The contact number matches this one. The signer list includes you and your son, Ethan Harper. My throat tightened. What documents? Ma'am, she said, her tone shifting into careful protocol. The file indicates a quitclaim deed. A deed. My house. The one Robert and I paid for over 26 years. The one I still kept his work boots by the garage door because it made mornings feel less lonely. Was being moved on paper like a chess piece. My fingers curled around the phone until my knuckles blanched. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Mrs. Harper," Renee said gently, "I'm required to confirm willing participation and identity. If you did not authorize this, I will not proceed. But I need to know if someone may be attempting to impersonate you." Impersonate. That's when my whole body went cold. Not with fear, but with clarity. Because Ethan's text, "Don't come," wasn't just about a wedding. It was about removing me from the room while they moved my life around without witnesses. I swallowed and forced my voice steady. "Ms. Hargrove, can you tell me the address listed for the signing?" Another pause. Then she read it. My address. My home. At 3:00, while my son stood at an altar and music played and guests applauded, someone planned to sit at my dining table and take my house away, and they thought I'd be too quiet, too ashamed, too confused to stop it. Renee's voice softened. "Mrs. Harper, are you safe right now?" I stared at my reflection in the dark window glass. Hair pinned, lipstick done, a mother dressed for a wedding she was forbidden to attend. "Yes," I said. "I'm safe." But I wasn't untouched. "Please," I added, "do not come to my house. And Ms. Hargrove, I need the confirmation page for that request. The requester details. Anything you're allowed to send." There was hesitation. "I can send a confirmation and the request information. Not the deed itself without proper authorization." "That's enough," I said. Because suddenly, I wasn't the woman standing alone in a dress with nowhere to go. I was the woman holding the first thread of proof. The call ended, and the silence in my bedroom felt different. Charged. Waiting. I looked at the clock. 9:28 a.m. The wedding ceremony was at 2. The notary appointment was at 3. That meant I had less than 6 hours to stop a deed that could steal my home. I picked up my car keys, took one last glance at my navy dress hanging like a question, and whispered to the empty room, "All right." Then my phone buzzed again. A new message lit up, one I wasn't supposed to see, and when I saw the sender name, my blood turned to ice. The message didn't arrive like a normal text. It flashed as a banner notification across my screen, bright as a flare. "Paige, tell the notary Mom is confirmed, and remind her, no drama today." It wasn't even meant for me. It was meant for Ethan. But Ethan and I still shared an old Apple ID on a family iPad account, something I'd never bothered to change because for years it only meant shared photos and grocery lists. Now it meant Paige's mistake dropped into my lap like a wallet she didn't realize she'd lost. In that one notification, everything rearranged itself. They weren't just excluding me from a wedding. They were coordinating around me. I didn't reply. I didn't call. I didn't even screenshot right away. I sat very still and let my mind do what it has always done under pressure, keep my face calm while I build a plan. For 33 years, I worked as a nurse aide in a rehabilitation center in Charlotte. I've watched families argue in hallways over who deserved the house while their mother lay staring at ceiling tiles. I've seen the way people start talking about you like you're already gone. So when Paige began sprinkling words like safety and confusion into casual conversation, I recognized the shape of it, the slow takeover. It began the spring after Robert died. Ethan came by more often then, carrying groceries and a tenderness that should have felt sweet. He'd stand at my kitchen counter and say, "Mom, just let me set up autopay for you. It's easier." And I let him. Because grief makes you tired, and easier sounds like kindness. Paige followed behind him like a consultant. She reorganized my pantry without asking. She replaced my paper calendar with an app. She offered to scan my important documents so I wouldn't lose them. One afternoon, I came home from volunteering at the church thrift shop and found my desk drawer open, my file folders stacked too neatly. Paige smiled. "I just thought I'd help. You had things everywhere." Everywhere meant in the place I had kept them for years. A week later, a letter from my credit card company arrived, except it wasn't in my mailbox. It was on my kitchen table, opened with a sticky note. Handled. "Love you," I asked Ethan gently. "Did you go through my mail?" He didn't meet my eyes. Paige was just trying to help. She's organized. Organized. That word covered a lot of trespassing. Then came the public little humiliations. At Paige's bridal shower, someone asked how long Ethan and I had lived in my house. Paige laughed, a tinkling sound. "Oh, Elaine doesn't really manage the house anymore. We're stepping in. Stepping in." Like I was a puddle. Ethan squeezed my shoulder as if to say, "Don't make it weird." So I didn't. Because mothers are trained to swallow their instincts for the sake of the room. But instincts don't disappear. They wait. I looked at the clock again. 9:41 a.m. If the ceremony was at 2 and the signing was at 3, Paige was trying to keep me distracted for the exact window they needed. That's what Ethan's "don't come" was really doing, clearing the day. I took a breath, full, slow, and did the first thing Marianne Cho would later praise me for. I documented. I screenshot Paige's message. I emailed it to myself. Then I forwarded it to a separate Gmail account Paige didn't know existed, one I used for volunteer schedules. Then I got in my car. Instead of turning toward St. Mark's Church, I drove straight to my bank. The same branch Robert and I had used since Ethan wore braces and complained about the wire. I parked and sat with my hands on the steering wheel, staring at the glass doors. My lipstick looked too bright in the rearview mirror, like I was dressed for the wrong life. Then my phone chimed. Renee's email came through. Appointment request confirmation. It included the requester name, the address, the time, and a note that made my stomach twist. Signer appears to have limited mobility. Please be patient. Limited mobility. I read it 3 times. I still carried donation boxes at church. I climbed a step stool to reach the top shelf. I gardened until my knees ached, the honest kind of ache. They were building a paper version of me that sounded fragile enough to override. I walked into the bank and asked for a manager. Something in my voice must have signaled urgency without drama, because within minutes, Mr. Dalton led me into a small office and closed the door. He glanced at my pinned hair and dress. "Special occasion?" "My son's wedding," I said, and the words came out flat. "But that's not why I'm here." I placed my phone on his desk and showed him Renee's confirmation. His face changed as he read. "A quitclaim deed?" "Yes," I said, "and someone is using my name." Mr. Dalton leaned back and exhaled. "Mrs. Harper, who has access to your online banking? Any linked devices? Any auto-pay control?" My stomach tightened, because suddenly all the help looked like a trail. "Ethan helps with auto-pay," I admitted. "He has logins. I didn't think—" "It's okay," he said gently, but his eyes sharpened. "Here's what we can do today. We reset your credentials, remove linked devices, add a verbal passphrase, and place heightened verification notes. We can also open new account numbers and transfer your funds." New account numbers. That sounded like oxygen. "That," I said, "is exactly what we're going to do." While he worked, he asked about missing mail and recent credit activity. He printed confirmations, paper proof, and slid them toward me like a lifeline. Then he said the sentence that made the plan feel bigger than a deed. "If someone is attempting property transfer," he warned, "they may also try credit in your name. You should place a fraud alert and consider a freeze." Fraud. Freeze. My life had become a checklist, but it was a checklist that could save me. When I walked back out into the sun, my phone lit again. A voicemail notification. From Ethan. My heart did that painful, foolish thing. I pressed play. And I heard him say, muffled, like he didn't know it was recording, "Just keep her away today." Then Paige's voice low and impatient. "If she refuses later, we go with the capacity route. My aunt knows someone who can file. We can't risk her changing her mind about the house." Capacity route. File. House. My hands went numb on the steering wheel. The wedding was their distraction. The house was the goal. And now I had proof spilling out of my own son's voicemail like a leak they didn't know existed. I didn't need to crash a church to make a scene. I needed the right professional in the right room with the right paper trail. I searched, Elder Law Attorney Charlotte N.C., and I called the first name that felt steady. Marianne Cho. Her receptionist answered, and I said, "I need an urgent appointment today. Someone is attempting to transfer my house and discussing guardianship." There was a pause. Then her voice changed. "Can you be here in 40 minutes? I checked the time. 10:47 a.m. I turned the key in the ignition. The ceremony would start at 2. The signing was at 3. And by the time Ethan said his vows, I was going to have an attorney on my side and evidence in my hands. Because Paige thought silence meant surrender. She was about to learn what silence can really mean. And as I pulled out of the parking lot, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a calendar invite. Mobile notary signing. Confirmed. Sent from Paige, with my name on it. By the time I reached Marianne Cho's office, my hands were no longer shaking. That didn't mean I wasn't hurting. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and rearranged everything. But pain and paralysis are not the same. Marianne's office sat in a modest brick building near medical practices and small law firms. No marble floors, no theatrical receptionist desk, just quiet competence, the kind I trusted. Marianne herself was in her 50s, gray starting at her temples, eyes sharp without being cruel. She listened without interrupting as I laid out the facts in order. Ethan's don't come, Renee's notary call, Paige's misdirected message, the voicemail about capacity route, the bank reset confirmations. When I finished, Marianne didn't gasp. She didn't dramatize. She nodded slowly, like she'd seen this play before. First, she said, you did the right thing by not confronting them. Confrontation warns people. Evidence protects you. The words settled into me like a brace. Marianne pulled out a yellow legal pad and wrote 3 headings. Property, money, autonomy. Property, she said, tapping the first word. Your house. We verify the current deed status today. My assistant will pull the county register record. If there's been any attempt to submit paperwork, we'll see it. My stomach clenched. Can they file without me? Not legally, she said. But people try. Forged signatures happen. That's why the notary's call matters. She followed protocol. She looked at me. Do you still have your photo ID? Passport? Anything someone could access? It's in my safe, I said. Combination only I know. Good. Money, she continued. You already changed online access. Keep those printed confirmations. We're going to create a clean paper trail showing you are acting voluntarily and competently. Competently. The word stung, because mothers shouldn't have to prove they're still themselves. Marianne slid a checklist toward me. We'll schedule a cognitive evaluation with your physician or a qualified specialist, not because I think you need it, because it's a shield. If they try guardianship, we show the court recent documentation. A shield. I exhaled slowly. The system could protect you, but only if you got there before the people trying to twist it. And autonomy, she said. We update your estate plan. Do you have a will? Yes, I admitted. Robert and I did 1 year ago. Ethan is the beneficiary. Marianne's pen paused. Given what you've heard, I recommend a revocable living trust and a neutral successor trustee. Someone who isn't Ethan. Not Ethan. The sentence landed like a bell in my chest. I didn't raise him to do this, I whispered. Marianne didn't soften it. People get influenced. People get desperate. Weddings are expensive. Entitlement spreads. My mind flashed to something Paige had once joked at dinner, smiling like it was harmless. It'll be ours someday anyway. Might as well make it useful. At the time, I'd laughed weakly. Now my stomach turned. Marianne asked about power of attorney. I don't think I signed one, I said. Then I hesitated, because I heard Paige's voice in my head. I scanned everything for you. Marianne's eyes narrowed gently. We won't rely on memory. We'll request copies where necessary, and you'll check your files. If Paige has scanned documents, she may have copies. The help might be the theft. Marianne had me forward everything to her secure intake. Renee's confirmation, Paige's calendar invite, the screenshot of Paige's misdirected message, and the voicemail file. Now, she said, do not secretly record in-person conversations unless I tell you based on state law. But you can document everything. Save texts, save emails, preserve voicemails. If they call, you can put them on speaker with a witness present. A witness. That word made me think of my neighbor, Wanda Price. Retired paralegal, spine made of steel, the kind of woman who notices everything. I texted her, Wanda, are you home? I need you today. Urgent. She replied within seconds. On my porch. Come. Marianne called Renee, the notary, while I sat there listening to the quiet hum of an office printer and the strange comfort of competence. Renee answered, and Marianne's voice went crisp. Ms. Hargrove, I represent Mrs. Harper. She did not authorize any appointment today. Please note that any attempt to proceed would be fraudulent. We request you preserve records. Request metadata, caller information, messages, and any documents in your file. Renee's voice tightened. Understood. I was uncomfortable with the request language. I will not proceed. Marianne looked at me, and something in her eyes said, "Professionals matter." Then she typed a formal notice. "We'll send Ethan and Paige a cease and desist letter today," she said. "It establishes you are represented and puts them on notice. If they continue, the consequences escalate." Consequences. That word steadied me more than comfort ever could. I left Marianne's office with a folder in my hands, real paper, real protection. Inside were printed emails, my bank confirmations, a document log, and a draft notice with my name in bold at the top. Outside, the sun was higher now. Somewhere across town, the church doors would close soon. My chest tightened, grief mixing with anger until I couldn't separate them. Then my phone rang. "Ethan." I answered calmly. "Mom," he said, voice tight. "Where are you?" I glanced at the folder on the passenger seat. "Handling something." "What?" he demanded. Behind him I heard chaos. Voices, music, the last minutes before a ceremony. And faintly, Paige's voice. "Tell her to just..." Ethan cut her off, but not strongly. "Mom, you can't. Today is not the day." I realized he wasn't calling to apologize. He was calling to control the timeline. I kept my voice low. "You texted me not to come." A pause. "It's complicated," he said. Complicated is a word people use when they don't want to admit they chose someone else over you. I didn't say deed. I didn't say notary. I let him believe his secret was still safe. Instead, I said one sentence, quiet and even. "Ethan," I said, "tell Paige to stop using my name." Silence. Then Paige's voice suddenly came louder, like she'd grabbed the phone. "Elaine, please don't start. We're under so much stress. You're emotional and..." Emotional. Her favorite weapon. I inhaled slowly. "I'm not emotional," I said. "I'm informed." Then I hung up. And in the clean quiet afterward, I felt something settle inside me. They were going to escalate. Because people who try to take your house don't stop because you asked nicely. They stop when the next step costs them. My phone buzzed. "Wanda," still on my porch, and I just saw a strange car slow by your house. My stomach dropped. Because 3 o'clock wasn't canceled in Paige's mind. It was still happening. And whatever they planned to do at my dining table, they were already moving toward my street. When I turned onto my street, Wanda was exactly where she said she'd be. On her porch with her arms folded and her eyes sharp as nails. She waved me over, not frantic, just ready. That steadied me more than anything. I parked, stepped out, and the warm air wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. Wanda's wind chimes tinkled across the street, cheerful in a way that almost made me laugh. Life doesn't pause for betrayal. Wanda took one look at my face. "Tell me everything." So I did, briefly, cleanly. Ethan's text, the notary call, Paige's message, the voicemail about capacity route, the bank reset, Marianne's letter. Wanda's mouth tightened. "Honey, I have seen this playbook. They isolate you first, then they move paper, then they call you confused." That's exactly what she said. I murmured. "Capacity route." Wanda's gaze flicked to my front door. "Any spare keys out there?" I shook my head. "Only the one Ethan used to have." "And did you get it back?" she asked. I didn't answer fast enough. Wanda exhaled through her nose. "All right, assume they can get in." That sentence made my porch feel less like a porch and more like a border. We walked up my driveway together. I didn't unlock the door right away. I stood still and listened. Quiet, no footsteps, no voices. But then my phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. "Mom, please." Paige is upset. "Can you just keep today peaceful? We'll talk after the honeymoon." After the honeymoon. As if deeds and guardianship petitions politely wait for vacations. I typed back one word. No. Then I did something I never imagined doing to my own child. I sent Marianne's cease and desist notice to Ethan as a PDF. No insults, no threats, just official language, neat and cold. Within 30 seconds, my phone rang again. Paige. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. Her message came in a minute later, sweet at first like she was auditioning for innocence. "Elaine, "Hi. I think there's been a misunderstanding," she said. "The notary is for something simple. We're just trying to make sure everything is organized for you. You know Ethan worries." Then the sweetness tightened. "And please don't do anything embarrassing today. There are a lot of people watching." Watching. That word prickled my skin. Because Paige cared less about what she was doing than about how it looked. Wanda heard it on speaker and snorted. Embarrassing is a strong word for refusing to be robbed. At 2:10 p.m., faint church bells rang from a few streets over, St. Mark's, where my son was getting married without me. My chest tightened, grief and rage braided together. Then Wanda pointed down the street. A white SUV turned the corner and slowed. My stomach clenched. "That's not Renee's car." Wanda's eyes narrowed. "Because Renee isn't coming." The SUV parked 2 houses down. A man stepped out in khaki pants and a polo shirt, holding a slim black folder like a salesman. He looked at his phone, then at my house. Then another car pulled up behind him. Paige's car, her neat little sedan, the one she drove to brunch and bridal fittings. Seeing it on my street with a stranger carrying a folder made something inside me go very still. Wanda whispered, "You want me to call the police now?" "Not yet," I said softly. "Not until they give us the reason." Because I wasn't wasting a clean move on a messy moment. Paige got out wearing a pale pink dress, wedding guest perfection, hair curled, makeup flawless. She looked like she belonged in a photo, not on my street with a signing agent. They walked up together, Paige's heels clicking like punctuation. I stepped forward onto the porch, so there was no question whether I was home. Paige's smile froze for half a second, just a flicker, then returned brighter. "Elaine," she called like we were friends. "Oh good, you're home. We need to do this quickly." "This," I echoed, calm. The man lifted his folder. "Mrs. Harper, I'm a mobile signing agent. I'm here to witness signatures." Wanda stepped beside me, solid as a wall. "I'm represented by counsel," I said, holding up Marianne's card. "There will be no signing of anything." Paige's smile tightened. "Elaine, don't be dramatic. It's just paperwork. Ethan and I are trying to make sure you're taken care of." Taken care of. There it was again. The phrase people use right before they take your choices. I kept my voice gentle. "If it's just paperwork, email it to my attorney." Paige's eyes flashed. "We don't have time for attorneys. Ethan is literally getting married right now." "So I'm supposed to be too distracted to protect my home?" I asked, still quiet. The agent shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, if you're refusing, I can't proceed." Paige's mask slipped for a breath. "You're supposed to be cooperative. Cooperative. Like a patient." Wanda's voice snapped crisp. "She said no, and you should leave before you find yourself explaining this to a judge." The agent took a step back like he was already grateful for an exit. Paige's gaze darted. Me, Wanda, the street. She realized curtains were moving. People were watching. Her voice softened into sugar again. "Elaine, you're scared. Change is scary. But Ethan and I can't keep worrying about you. We need a plan." I nodded slowly. "Is that why you told Ethan to text me not to come to my own son's wedding?" Paige's eyes widened. "What? No, that's not—" "You isolated me," I said calmly. "So you could show up here with a folder." The agent cleared his throat. "I'm going to go," he muttered, stepping away. Paige hissed under her breath, not quite low enough. "Idiot." There. The mask cracked in daylight. The agent walked back to his SUV. Paige stayed, her smile forced, her voice dropping low. "You're making a mistake," she said. "If you keep fighting, Ethan will have no choice but to protect you the legal way." Protect. Legal way. My pulse stayed steady, but my stomach turned. "Is that a threat?" I asked softly. Paige leaned closer, perfume sharp and expensive. "It's reality. People file things when someone can't make good decisions." Wanda stepped in. "You should leave." Paige straightened, voice loud enough for listening windows. "We're family." I looked at her. Pink dress, perfect hair, standing on my porch with a stranger's folder while my son said vows across town, and I kept my voice even. "Family doesn't need deception," I said. "Family doesn't need a quitclaim deed." Paige flinched, and I saw it. She hadn't expected me to know that word. She hadn't expected the notary to call me. She hadn't expected me to be ready. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down, then up. and her expression cooled into something hard. "Fine," she said. "If you want to do it the hard way, we can." She walked back to her car, heels sharp against pavement. Then she threw one last sentence over her shoulder. "Don't be surprised when Ethan shows up with paperwork you can't ignore." She drove off. Wanda exhaled slowly. That was the opening move. I stared at my front door, suddenly aware of how fragile a home can feel when someone else believes they're entitled to it. Then my phone buzzed again. An email from Marianne. Subject line, urgent, county record search result. My heart dropped because I knew whatever was inside wasn't going to be small. I opened it right there on the porch, and the first line made my knees go weak. Marianne's email was short, efficient, and terrifying in its simplicity. Elaine, a document was submitted for recording last week. It was rejected for a technical issue. We are pulling the copy now. Submitted. Last week. Rejected only because of a technical issue, not because they changed their minds. If that clerk hadn't caught a mistake, my house might already be halfway gone on paper. That's when I realized how close I'd been to losing everything without even knowing I was in a fight. I called Marianne immediately. She answered on the second ring. "I'm glad you're with a witness," she said. I could hear keyboards in the background. "Wanda Price?" Wanda leaned toward my phone. "Here." "Good," Marianne said. "Here's what happens next. We're requesting the rejected filing copy formally and documenting the attempted submission. We're also preparing an affidavit to contest any future attempt and requesting the register flag the record for review." My throat tightened. How could they submit anything without me? "They can submit forged documents," Marianne said. "It doesn't make it legal. It makes it urgent." Urgent. That word can make you panic if you let it. I didn't. Marianne continued. "Today, change your locks. Secure your originals. Deed paperwork, ID documents, estate planning documents. Originals stay with you." Wanda nodded like she'd already planned it. "I know a locksmith who can be here today." Marianne's tone sharpened. "Now, guardianship. If she's talking about filing, they may claim incapacity. We're scheduling an expedited evaluation with your doctor's office and building a clean record. And I'm sending a formal letter to Paige today, not just Ethan. She's the driver." The driver. Even Marianne could see it. "And Ethan?" I asked, and the question tasted like sorrow. There was a pause, just long enough to hurt. "Ethan may be influenced," Marianne said carefully, "but he is participating. Preserve everything. Don't edit. Don't forward the voicemail widely. Keep it intact. Preserve evidence." I stared at my quiet kitchen, the porch swing visible through the window, the flower pot half wilted from the heat. All that life, and now it came down to paper and deadlines. That evening, while the wedding reception likely glowed with string lights and toasts, Wanda sat at my kitchen table with me while I opened every drawer Paige had organized. I expected a mess. What I found was worse. Neatness. A tidy plastic binder labeled "important" in Paige's handwriting. Inside, copies of my documents, not originals. Wanda's voice went low. "She's been building her own file." My stomach tightened. "So if I lost something, she'd have it. And if you needed it," Wanda added, "she'd control it." We checked my safe. Then we checked my locked cabinet. Then we checked the file drawer I hadn't opened in months, because grief makes you avoid anything that says future. My breath caught. My social security card was gone. My passport was gone. The folder where Robert and I kept our original will was gone, replaced with copies in Paige's binder. My hands went cold. Wanda didn't panic. She just reached for a notepad. "Write it down. Itemized. Date and time. Documentation. Paper. Fine print." At 8:43 p.m., Ethan finally called. I stared at his name for a long moment before I answered, because no part of me wanted to hear wedding joy in his voice. But when I answered, I kept my tone calm. "Mom," he said, exhausted. "What are you doing?" "I'm protecting my home," I replied. "You embarrassed Paige," he snapped, then softened quickly. "I mean, she's upset. Everyone asked where you were. Why couldn't you just come and keep the peace?" There it was. Not "I'm sorry," not "I miss you," just keep the peace. I inhaled slowly. "Ethan, did you authorize a notary to come to my house today?" A pause. Then a lie that came too fast. No, I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I said quietly, "Then why is my name on the appointment request and the calendar invite?" Silence. I could hear laughter in the background. Music. A celebration built on my exclusion. Then Paige's voice cut in, sharp. "Give me the phone." Ethan hesitated. Just a second too long. Then Paige spoke, sweet again, but the sweetness had teeth. "Elaine," she said, "you're spiraling. This is exactly what we were worried about. You're making irrational decisions because you're emotional about the wedding." I kept my voice even. "You stole my passport." A beat of silence, tiny but telling. Paige's sweetness cracked. "Excuse me? My passport is missing," I said. "So is my social security card. And Marianne found a deed submission attempt last week." Ethan's voice rose, startled. "What deed attempt?" Paige snapped. "Ethan, stop!" But it was too late. In that one question, I realized something important. Ethan might have agreed to handle my finances. He might have agreed to push me out of the wedding because Paige wanted a clean picture. But he didn't know everything she had already done. I leaned into that opening carefully, like you do when you don't want to shatter someone, only wake them up. "Ethan," I said softly, "did you know a document was submitted to the county last week?" His breathing changed. "No." "Paige, what is she talking about?" Paige's voice turned hard. "Hang up." Ethan didn't. "Paige, tell me." And then Paige made her mistake. She hissed into the phone, not caring who heard anymore. "It was rejected," she snapped. "It doesn't matter." Rejected? Doesn't matter. Wanda's eyes widened beside me. She mouthed, "Got her," because Paige had just admitted knowledge of the filing. I didn't gloat. I didn't yell. I just said calmly, "Thank you." Paige paused. "For what?" "For confirming it," I said. Ethan's voice cracked. "Paige, what did you do?" Paige scrambled, frantic now. "I did it for us. For you. Your mom is going to leave everything to the church or some charity if we don't protect it. She's not thinking straight." There was her story. Confused. Emotional. Not thinking straight. The setup for guardianship. My voice stayed low. "Ethan, I have a voicemail where you said, 'capacity route.'" Silence so deep I could hear my pulse. Ethan whispered, "Mom." Paige burst out, "That's illegal." I didn't debate legality. I didn't need to. "I'm not discussing this with you anymore," I said. "My attorney will." Then I ended the call. My hands were steady, but my eyes burned. Wanda covered my hand with hers. "You did good." I stared at Paige's important binder and felt grief settle heavy. But underneath it, something stronger took root. Resolve. Because tomorrow, Marianne would pull the rejected filing copy. And if my signature was on it, if they'd forged it, then this wasn't just family drama. It was fraud, and fraud has consequences. I stood to lock my safe again, and my phone buzzed once more. Unknown number. A new notification with an attached PDF. The message read, "Guardianship petition, draft." And under proposed guardian, the name wasn't Ethan. It was Paige. I stared at the PDF until the words stopped looking like words and started looking like a threat made tangible. Guardianship petition, draft. Proposed guardian, Paige Bennett Harper. They weren't even married a full day, and she was already positioning herself to become the legal gatekeeper of my life. That's when I knew it had never been about helping. It was about ownership of my house, my money, and my voice. I forwarded the PDF to Marianne immediately, then saved it into a folder she'd told me to create. Evidence, do not delete. The next morning, Wanda drove me back to Marianne's office. I wore jeans and a plain blouse. No wedding dress-up, no pretending. Just the uniform of a woman handling business. Marianne greeted us with a tight expression. "We got the rejected filing copy," she said. She slid a document across the table. Quitclaim deed. Grantor, Elaine Harper. Grantee, Ethan Harper and Paige Bennett. And there it was, my signature. Only it wasn't mine. It looked like someone had tried to imitate it from a scanned copy, shaky, awkward, like a child tracing cursive. My stomach rolled, but my voice stayed steady. "That's a forgery." Marianne nodded. "Yes, The notary block was incomplete, which may be why the clerk rejected it. We're also verifying the commission number they listed. The paper trail that almost stole my home was now going to expose the hand that wrote it. Marianne moved fast, like a surgeon. She prepared a sworn statement contesting the attempt and requesting the county keep a note on the record for additional review. She drafted a formal complaint for suspected fraud. She had me sign an authorization to request related copies. Then we locked down everything else. Credit freeze, fraud alert, bank passphrase confirmations, device removals, new account numbers, paper. Sometimes dignity is paperwork done correctly. Marianne looked at me carefully. Now we update your estate plan. A revocable living trust, with you as trustee while you're alive and competent. A successor trustee you choose, someone neutral. I thought of my niece Tanya, an accountant with a gentle voice and a spine made of steel. Tanya, I said. Marianne nodded. Good. And Ethan? I asked, and the question tasted like grief. You can still leave him something, Marianne said softly. But not control, not access, not the keys, not the keys. That phrase hit me harder than legal language ever could. Because when Ethan was little, I trusted him with everything. His scraped knees, his secrets, his future. Now I couldn't trust him with my mailbox. That afternoon, Marianne scheduled a formal meeting at her office. Documented, witnessed. She invited Ethan by email and certified letter. Paige came too, of course. She didn't let him enter a room without her. They arrived dressed like brunch, not like people accused of forging a deed. Paige's smile was polished. Ethan looked like he hadn't slept. Marianne greeted them with polite chill. Thank you for coming. Paige's eyes flicked to Wanda. Is she necessary? Wanda smiled pleasantly. I'm a witness. Marianne placed the rejected deed copy on the table. This was submitted for recording last week. It contains a forged signature. Ethan's face drained of color. What? Paige leaned forward, voice bright. That's a serious accusation. Marianne slid the guardianship draft across next. And this draft was sent to Mrs. Harper last night. It lists Paige Bennett Harper as proposed guardian. Ethan turned sharply to Paige. You drafted this? Paige's mask slipped, just slightly, then snapped back on. It was a precaution. Your mother has been unstable lately. Unstable. The word landed like a slap, but I didn't flinch. Marianne's voice stayed calm. Mrs. Harper is building a record of capacity documentation through her physician. Additionally, she has secured her accounts and updated her estate plan. Any attempt to file guardianship on false grounds will be contested. Consequences entered the room, and the room changed. Ethan stared at the deed again, then at me. His voice cracked. Mom, I swear I didn't sign that. I believe you didn't forge my signature, I said quietly. But you did text me not to come. You did let her talk about me like I was a problem. Ethan swallowed hard. I didn't know about the deed submission. Paige snapped. Ethan, stop! Marianne cut smoothly through. Then perhaps you should ask why your wife did. Paige's cheeks flushed. This is ridiculous. We were just trying to... Take my house, I said, soft but clear. Paige's voice rose. It was going to be yours anyway when you were gone. We're married now. We need stability. And frankly, you can't live alone forever. There it was. The facility narrative dressed up as concern. Marianne didn't argue feelings. She laid out facts. We have the notary request confirmation using Mrs. Harper's name, she said. We have the attempted county submission record. We have the guardianship draft. And we have preserved communications. Paige's lips parted, searching for a new angle. Wanda spoke, still polite. You came to her porch in a pink dress with a folder while she sat home excluded from her own son's wedding. You don't get to call her unstable. Paige's eyes flashed. You don't know what you're talking about. And then Ethan did something I hadn't seen in months. He straightened. He looked at Paige, and he said, Stop. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was real. Paige stared at him, shocked, as if she'd never considered he could say no to her. Ethan turned to me, eyes wet. Mom, I'm sorry. I thought I was helping. She told me you were going to cut me out. She told me you didn't need me anymore. I let the silence sit. because it mattered that he felt it. Then I said quietly, I needed you as my son, not my manager. Marianne slid a formal agreement across the table. No entry to my property without permission, no access to accounts, no pursuit of guardianship without legitimate medical grounds, and acknowledgement that I was represented. Paige's jaw clenched. This is insane. But her hand trembled when she picked up the pen. Because paper cuts both ways. She signed. Ethan signed too, his hand shaking. When they left, Paige walked ahead, furious, heels clicking like a metronome of entitlement. Ethan lagged behind, turned back once, and whispered, Mom, can we talk? Just us? I held his gaze. Not today, I said gently. Today, you go learn what you just married. It was the hardest sentence I've ever spoken with a calm voice. In the weeks that followed, my locks were changed. My originals were secured. My trust was set. My accounts had passphrases no one could guess. The county record was documented, and Marianne's file sat ready if Paige ever tried again. She didn't. People like Paige don't like sunlight. One Sunday afternoon, Ethan came by alone with a small box. Inside were my passport and my social security card. He set them on my kitchen table like offerings and didn't look up right away. I found them in her desk drawer, he said, voice hollow. She said she was keeping them safe. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I slid them back into my safe, closed the door, and turned to my son. I hope, I said quietly, you understand what safe really means now. He nodded, eyes shining. I do. We sat on the porch after that, the same porch Paige tried to conquer. Late sun warmed the wood under our feet. Wanda's wind chimes sang across the street like a soft victory. Ethan didn't ask me to forgive him immediately. He didn't ask me to pretend. He just sat there, finally acting like a son who understood that love isn't control. And for the first time since Robert died, something loosened inside me. Not the grief, but the fear. Because dignity can be restored. Sometimes with hugs, sometimes with boundaries, and sometimes with a notary's phone call that comes at exactly the right moment.